Alright, y'all. How y'all doing today? Just testing out this Streamlabs. Wanted to get into Twitter Files Part 4. It was the removal of Donald Trump when they decided to ban him. Can you hear me? How's my audio? Alright, y'all. How y'all doing today? Just testing out this Streamlabs. Wanted to get into Twitter Files Part 4. It was the removal of Donald Trump when they decided to ban him. Can you hear me? How's my audio? Alright, y'all. How y'all doing today? Just testing out this Okay. Streamlabs. Wanted to get into Twitter Files Part 4. It was the removal of Donald Trump when they decided to ban him. Can you hear me? How's my audio? Alright, so here we go. Let's dive into this. On January 7th, senior Twitter executives created justifications to ban Trump. They also seek to change a policy for Trump alone, distinct from other political leaders. They express no concern for free speech or democracy implications of a ban. For years, Twitter had resisted calls to ban Trump, blocking a world leader from Twitter. It wrote in 2018, would hide important information, hamper necessary discussions around their words and actions, according to Twitter's policy. But after the events of January 6th, the internal and external pressure on the Twitter CEO Jack grew. Michelle Obama, tech journalists, high-tech VCs, and many other publicly called for Twitter to permanently ban Trump. Dorsey was on vacation the week of January 4th through the 8th, 2021. He phoned into meetings, but also delegated much of the handling of the situation to senior execs. Twitter's global head of trust and safety, and the head of legal policy and trust. As content, it is important to understand that Twitter staff and senior executives were overwhelmingly progressive. In 2018, 2020, and 2022, 96, 98, and 99% of Twitter staff political donations went to Democrats. In 2017, Roth tweeted that there were actual Nazis in the White House. That's crazy. In April 2022, Roth told a colleague that it is his goal to drive change in the world, which is why he decided not to become an academic. On January 7th, email employees saying Twitter needed to remain consistent in its policies, including the rights of users to return to Twitter after a temporary suspension. After Roth reassures an employee that people who care about this aren't happy with where we're at. Around 11:30 a.m., Roth DMs his colleagues with the news that he was excited to share. Guess what, he writes. Jack just approved repeat offender for civic integrity. I wonder who repeat offender was. We all know. The new approach would create a system where 5 violations, strikes would result in permanent suspension. Progress, exclaims a member of Roth's trust and safety team. In the exchange between Roth and his colleagues makes clear that they had been pushing Jack for greater restrictions on speech Twitter allowed around elections. The colleague wants to know if the decision means Trump can finally be banned. The person asks, does the excitement to violence aspect change the calculus? Roth says it doesn't. Trump continues to just have 1 strike remaining. Can you say collusion? Roth's colleague query about incitement to violence heavily foreshadowed what will happen the following day. On January 8th, Twitter announced a permanent ban on Trump due to the risk of further incitement of violence. On January 8th, Twitter said its ban is based on specifically how Trump's tweets are being received and interpreted. Interesting. But in 2019, it also said not attempt to determine all potential interpretations of the content or its intent. So Twitter is violating its own policies. Go figure. The only serious concern we found expressed within Twitter over the implications for free speech and democracy of banning Trump came from a junior person in the organization. It was tucked away in a lower level Slack channel known as Site Integrity Auto. This might be an unpopular opinion, but one-off ad HOC decisions like this that don't appear rooted in policy are IMHO a slippery slope. This now appears to be fiat by an online platform CEO with global presence that can gatekeep speech for the entire world. Wow. Twitter employees use the term one-off frequently in their Slack discussions. It's frequently used to reveal significant employee discretion over when and whether to apply warning labels on tweets and strikes on users. Recall from Twitter Files Part 2, according to Twitter staff, we control visibility quite a bit, and we control the amplification of your content quite a bit, and normal people do not know how much we do. Twitter employees recognize the difference between their own politics, and Twitter's terms of service, but they also engaged in a complex interpretation of content in order to stamp out prohibited tweets as a series of exchanges over the Stop the Steal hashtag revealed. Roth immediately DM'd colleagues to ask that they add "Stop the Steal" and QAnon conspiracy term Kraken to the blacklist of terms to be de-amplified. Roth's colleague objects to blacklisting "Stop the Steal" risk de-amplifying counter-speech that validates the election. Indeed notes Roth's colleague a quick search of top "Stop the Steal" tweets and their counter-speech, but they quickly came up with a solution: de-amplify accounts with "Stop the Steal" in the name/profile, since those are not affiliated with counter-speech. But it turns out that even blacklisting Kraken is less straightforward than they thought. That's because Kraken, in addition to being a QAnon conspiracy theory based on the mythical Norwegian sea monster, is also the name of a cryptocurrency exchange, and thus was a loud list. Employees struggled with whether to punish users who shared screenshots of Trump's tweets. Should we bounce these tweets with a strike given the screenshots violate policy? They are criticizing Trump, so I am a bit hesitant with applying strikes to this user. What if a user dislikes Trump and objects to Twitter censorship? The tweet still gets deleted, but since the intention is not to deny elections results, no punishment strike is applied. If there are instances where the intent is unclear, please feel free to raise. Around noon, a confused senior executive in advertising sales sends a DM to Roth. Jack, will we permanently suspend Trump if our policies are violated after 12-hour account lock? What policy is Jack talking about? Any policy violation, Roth says. What happens next is essential to understanding how Twitter justified banning Trump. Sales executive, are we dropping the public interest policy now? Roth, 6 hours later. In this specific case, we are changing our public interest approach for his account. Jesus. The ad exec is referring to Twitter's policy of public interest exceptions, which allow the content of elected officials even if it violates Twitter rules, if it directly contributes to understanding or discussing of matters of public concern. Roth pushes for a permanent suspension of Matt Gaetz, even though it doesn't quite fit anywhere, duh. It's a kind of test case for the rationale for banning Trump. I'm trying to talk to Twitter's safety team into removal as a conspiracy that incites violence. Around 2:30, comms exec DMs Roth to say they don't want to make a big deal of the QAnon ban to the media because they fear if we push this, it looks like we're trying to offer up something in place of the thing everyone wants, meaning ban Trump. All right, is that it? That's all you got, Mike? Okay, here we go. We got more. That evening, a Twitter engineer DMs Roth to say, I feel a lot of debate around exceptions stem from the fact Trump's account is not technically different from anybody else's, yet treated differently due to his personal status without corresponding Twitter rules. Roth's response hint at how Twitter would justify deviating from its long-standing policy. To put a different spin on it, policy is one part of the system on how Twitter works. We ran into the world changing faster than we were able to either adapt the product or the policy. In the evening of January 7th, the same junior executive who expressed the unpopular opinion about the decision they don't appear rooted in policy speaks up one last time before the end of the day. Earlier that day, the employee wrote, "My concern is specifically surrounding the unarticulable logic of the decision by FB. That space fills with ideas, conspiracy theories that all internet moguls sit around like kings casually deciding what people can and cannot see." The employee notes later in the day, and Will Armreas noticed the inconsistency too, linking to an article for 10 at Medium call, "Facebook chucked its own rulebook to ban Trump." The underlying problem is that the dominant platforms will always been loath to own up to their subjectivity because it highlights the extraordinary, unfeathered power they wield over the global public square. Yeah, this is wild right here, y'all. And places the responsibility for that power on their own shoulders. So they hide behind an ever-changing rulebook, alternatively pointing to it when it's convenient and shoving it under the nearest rug when it isn't. Fuck, dude. Facebook's suspension of Trump now puts Twitter in an awkward position. If Trump does indeed return to Twitter, the pressures on Twitter will ramp up to find pretexts on which to ban him as well. Indeed, as we'll show tomorrow, that's exactly what happened. Alright, is that it? Twittergate is worse than Watergate. Changed my mind. Alright, tell me what y'all think about this. I think that's it.